Welcome back, everyone, to this next episode of our Student Eagles podcast. And joining us today, we have a really special guest. He is the chairman of the Alabama Republican Party and the vice chair of the RNC. John Wahl is joining us today. And so we're really excited to talk with him and ask him some questions and learn about some of his views on politics and what he does. And so really excited to have you on the podcast today.
Look, I'm really excited to be here. I told you, I love the work you guys are doing. I love to see the outreach to young people. It's near and dear to my heart. When I was elected, I was the youngest chairman in the country. And I think engagement with youth is probably one of the most important things we can do as a conservative movement. And I say that because you see how important this is to the left. Socialist, totalitarian governments have always known whoever controls the hearts and the minds of the children today control the country tomorrow. And that's where the biggest battle in our society right now, I think, is over the hearts of our youth. So I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
This is
great.
This
is awesome.
If you haven't watched our podcast yet, I'm Jill Blocker, and this is Brady Johnson.
Yes.
And we'll be hosting the Student Eagles podcast today. We're so excited to have you on, and I think you're completely correct about all of that, too. It only takes one generation to change a nation. So.
And Ronald Reagan talked about that. Our founding fathers talked about it. Thomas Jefferson. Every generation has to embrace their values for themselves. You can't inherit freedom. You can't inherit liberty, and you can't inherit good government. It's something that every generation has to fight for by themselves, and they have to have a foundation in order to know what to fight for. So,
yes. Freedom is only one generation away from being lost.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that each generation needs to take up the torch and carry on the fight for liberty.
That's exactly right.
So that's important to remember. So to get it started, I think a good first question would be to ask you a little bit about your story and how you got involved in politics. Like, what got you interested in the political world in the first place? What got you involved?
Oh, that's a great question. I think for me, it goes back to this idea, growing up, that government should serve the people. And I had an experience in my youth. For those who do not know, and I'm going to bring this up probably earlier than you guys might expect it to in this podcast, I'm a leptozoologist, so I'm a butterfly farmer. And I remember a situation when I was probably still in my teens. I remember I was raising some butterflies just for fun as a hobby before I started on a professional basis. And I got in trouble with the USDA for accidentally, I did not know better, but importing butterflies. And I did not realize you had to have a permit for that. And somehow they found me and they showed up at my parents' door knocking on the door looking for me. And I joke about it now because, at the time, this is a horrible experience for a young person, right? Like, this is not what you want the federal government's after you. And I joke with my parents now because I'm like, most parents have to worry about their kids like drugs, alcohol. I'm like, at least, I hope that someday if I have trouble with my children, it is something like butterflies, not something more serious. But at the time, it was a very scary situation. And I ended up getting fined for it, that. But it was at that point that I realized government was too big. If the federal government somehow knew what I had in my house when I had not told them, it was just, it's encroaching on things like civil liberty, on personal responsibility. And so I started thinking and started just researching what makes good government, right? Because that should be the question we're all asking. What is government? Why does it exist? And what makes a positive government versus a tyrannical government? And through that journey, just me wanting to know why I believed what I believed, grew a passion for good government, for a government that kind of returns to the vision of our founding fathers, which is a government that was created to defend the rights and the freedoms of the individual. And perhaps our Declaration of Independence says it best, where it says, government was instituted among men and derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. And I love the wording. I love, I became enthralled with our founding fathers and just their words, the way, they speak differently than we do today. And I love that journey through that process. And as I learned, I just became passionate about being involved in the governmental system and helping preserve people's rights and freedoms. For me, this is what this is about. It's about helping people have a better life, a more successful life, a safer life, and how government should act in regards to individuals to help them accomplish those goals.
Yes. Yeah, I think I loved what you said about the danger of big government, because one line that I've heard that's really good is the bigger the government, the smaller the individual.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
the more that the government controls society, the more that the government is making regulations and telling people what they can and can't do, the less that individuals are actually able to take responsibility for their own lives.
And can I just say that you're a prime example of the butterfly effect, quite literally.
I like that. I like that. But no, it really is true. And I think something that is important for us all to remember. And I kind of had this argument during a local tax fight up in my hometown, where government wanted to increase taxes, and I said, well, we as citizens, and at the base level in America is special because we understand that the sovereigns in America, the kings of America, we don't have a centralized king. It's the individuals. Like that's what the Constitution said. We the people are the ones who have the power, who our government is supposed to serve. And it's unique in world history that we don't have leaders who are, over the people. It's the people over the leaders. And the leaders are our public servants. And I think that's unique. You don't see that in Europe. If you're talking in Europe, they wouldn't understand if you said public servants, they wouldn't understand what you were talking about. In America, we understand that.
How sad.
Because of the form of government we have. And it's government's nature to grow. It always has been, it always will be. Government by design always wants more money, wants more power, wants to grow. And it's we the people who have the responsibility to keep that in check. And sometimes we have to say, no, we're not going to we're going to vote against your tax increase. We're going to vote against this increased power. We're going to do this. And that's where the responsibility of the electorate come in. Because you have to have a responsible electorate in order to keep government in check.
Yeah, I think that's a really great perspective to have, because when you look at it like that, and when you tell people that you're actually the ones in charge, like the basis of our government isn't the people who we elect to represent us in Washington, D.C. The basis of our government is we the people, like the Constitution says. And when you frame it like that, I think that's a really good reason for young people especially to get involved, because then you kind of feel a sense of duty and a sense of obligation once you realize that you're responsible for how your government runs. Because it's actually up to you. It's up to the people to get involved and make a difference.
100%. And it also comes with a sense of pride.
Yeah.
And a sense of power, because it should empower you. I was once, one of my favorite quotes, I forget, this was years ago, listening to someone speaking on a national level in the past. And they said, I am here today not as my position in government. I'm here today as the highest elected position, or not elected, but the highest position in the entire country. And the press or whoever were like, you're not the president. And they're like, no, I'm a taxpayer. And that's the highest position in our country. And I thought how true and how fitting that he would recognize, actually say, I'm not here in my official government capacity, because if I am, I'm actually lower than if I was here in my highest position, which is a citizen and a taxpayer.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that.
I think that's really important. And yeah, like I said, that's a great reason for young people to get involved, which is one of the things I wanted to ask you. What is some advice that you have for maybe students out there right now who are wanting to get involved in politics, and maybe they want to learn a lot, they want to know how they can get involved and make a difference? You obviously have a lot of experience in the political world, and you've been really successful. So what's some advice or what's some tips that you might give to young people who want to get involved?
Look, that's another great question. What I always say is stay humble. Look, I see so many people today, especially, no offense to my own generation, right? I'm a millennial. No offense to my own generation, and then the ones following me, which, by the way, I'm sorry for you guys. I know you're Gen Z, right?
Yes.
You guys make millennials look great. Like, we appreciate you, because it was like we were getting a bad rap until you came along.
Oh, man.
No,
now we take the blame for all the problems.
That is in jest. I am saying that in jest. I love young people.
Yeah.
But no, I think stay humble. I see so often where young people feel like they deserve. Right? Like it's an entitlement mentality. We're like, oh, we deserve because we're young. No. We're all just individuals. We're all people.
Yeah.
We should look at it through that perspective. Be known for your work ethic. Work hard. If you work hard and you serve other people, leadership will naturally be handed to you. There's actually, whether it's in the business world, whether it's in the political world, and especially within, party politics, people are looking for young people. The next generation, are looking for young people who want to be engaged, and they want to be part of it. But if you're willing to work hard and you're willing to be a servant to others, it will naturally raise your profile, and you will naturally raised within the ranks. So I say
Yes.
keep yourself grounded, keep yourself humble, and work hard. And never miss an opportunity to learn, to talk to others, to learn more about whatever your passion is. Get more involved, and if you support other people who are in a position, that will naturally help you. I'm going to give you my personal perspective, right? So I was born and raised in Limestone County. And I remember when I was first getting involved in politics, it was a Democrat county. And I didn't know that Republicans were not supposed to win. It was completely Democrat. And so I naturally, without even realizing it, challenged the Democrat establishment within the county. Helped the Republican candidate, helped recruit and run campaigns for Republican candidates. And then they won. And it was through service, through helping others win, that I got a reputation for leadership. And then that grew, and it became where people were recruiting me, like trying to talk me into going into leadership position. I was like, look, I'm just a farm boy, from West Limestone. I don't deserve leadership positions. But you will be drafted to leadership positions if you do a good job with where you're at.
There's a Bible verse, but it says to do everything unto the Lord. And I think about that a lot, especially whenever I'm doing something that feels important, like this podcast. Putting too much pressure on yourself can be unhealthy, can be too stressful, but I think that feeling a little bit of pressure, especially like when it comes to that Bible verse, do everything unto the Lord. If you're always trying to pressure yourself to do better and to do everything as if Jesus was sitting right in front of you, then your work is going to come out a lot better, and it's going to be quality work, and other people are going to notice that as well.
That's right. Look, there are no small tasks. Everything you do it as unto the Lord, right? And if you do that, it's natural that you're gonna be recognized for the good work you do in small things. And he who is faithful in small things is then given greater responsibilities.
Yeah.
I saw this video where this teacher was teaching his students about how if each goal takes a bunch of little goals to get to the big goal. And he had the students line up, and he had a bunch of pieces of paper on the floor. And he made the first student, he said, don't touch the floor, you can only touch the paper. So the student hopped from paper to paper to paper until he got to the end, the last piece of paper signifying the goal. But then when it was the next kid's turn, he took away all the papers in between. So it was just the first paper and the last paper. And they were so far away that the student had no chance of jumping that far to get to the last one. And he said, this is what happens whenever you try to reach for the end goal before you do all the little miniature steps and goals in between. And it might feel like each goal is insignificant, and you look ahead of you and there's still 7 more goals till you get to the big goal at the end. But each goal is fundamental and extremely important to getting to that goal, and that's just something that I think a lot of people have to realize.
That's right, and important to your growth. That's what I see so often where people want to get to the end. And it's like, if you have not laid the foundation, and this is another biblical concept, right? If you don't lay the foundation in your life of understanding why you believe what you believe, and you have the experience you need, you won't necessarily be as good a leader once you get to the end, right?
Yeah, true.
And so it's the building block process. The steps you take in life is what makes you a good leader. But the more faithful you are, and the more successful you are with the little things, the faster you'll get to that end goal. So
Yes. Yeah, and that kind of sounds like what you were saying with your own story, because you started out just helping other candidates and running their campaigns and helping them win elections. And then that's kind of how you got a good reputation, through helping those other candidates.
And the funny thing is, in my heart, that's still who I am. I still see myself as a behind-the-scenes guy, right? Like, I'm the guy who wants to help other people be successful. And that is still my passion to this day, even in a leadership position. And that's why one reason why I love the position of state party chairman, because even though it's a leadership position, it's still a position where I can use my influence to help other people, other genuine people who care about America and love freedom, be successful in what they do.
Yes.
I like that take on it.
That's awesome. Yes, I think that's a really good way to look at it. And so a little bit kind of going off what Jill was saying about taking small steps towards achieving a big goal, I thought it'd be good to maybe ask you about young people out there who might have big dreams and big aspirations right now. They might have big goals for the future, but they're not really sure where to get started, or they might have other people in their life who might be discouraging them, or who might be telling them that they should take an easier route or they should take the safer route in life. What would you say to them? They might have, big goals and big dreams, but they're not really sure how to accomplish those things.
Yeah, look, that's this is my heart. I love this question because this is going to sound a little bit contradictory to what I just said. Don't be afraid to be ambitious. Like, don't be afraid to have big dreams. That's healthy. And look, it's good for you, and your Heavenly Father wants you to have those big dreams. And with Him, you can accomplish anything, right? And so, no, I don't let anyone discourage you from having your dreams, because God has put passion in people's heart. He's put a calling. And we don't all have the same passion. We don't all have the same calling. That's because, we're unique, and we're created in the image of God, where there are those different pieces, and there's a different end desires. So no, I say embrace it. And I'm going to go a little bit off of your traditional, and I know some people would a little bit more almost to the Charlie Kirk model here, right? Something I tell young people all the time is follow your dreams, follow your passions, especially in there, even if it's education. Don't be afraid to take, to say, hey, look, I'm going to give it, the normal college route. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to work for yourself, or you have a passion in some area, don't be afraid to go after that dream. Like, if it doesn't work out, you can always go back and take the more traditional model. But take the opportunity to look, to look past the box that we all get put in so often, and be creative, be different. Like, there's nothing wrong with pursuing the dream that's in your heart.
Yes. I think the most amazing thing about Charlie Kirk's story is how he started out not going to college. And as he would always say, he had no money and no connections when he was just starting out. No money and no
connections. And then he ended up probably with good money and some of the best connections in the entire world.
That's right. Yeah. But he started out with like nothing, and he was just, going around to political meetings and meeting with people and raising money to build his organization. And I think one of the coolest things about his story is it shows that anybody who's willing to get involved, who really cares about an issue, who really believes in something strongly, and who is willing to put themselves out there, you can have an impact. And it doesn't matter if you're starting out with, like Charlie Kirk would say, no money and no connections. You can still make a difference. And so I think a lot of young people right now are looking at that and saying, like, hey, if Charlie Kirk could do that, then maybe we can too.
No, that's right. And it goes back to what I was saying. Don't let anyone tell you can't do, because you have the greatest advocate on your side, which is your Heavenly Father. And so don't be afraid to question this status quo or dream big.
Yeah, not only that, but don't tell yourself either, because I feel like a lot of times whenever we try to achieve big goals, we go in thinking we're going to grow really fast. And sometimes, depending on the goal, I guess, but a lot of times there's going to be a time when it feels like it's going really slow, you're not accomplishing anything, you're not getting anywhere, but that's one of the steps to the big goal, is being at that point where it feels like monotonous work maybe, but once you push past that, it really starts to grow into something big.
Yeah. And look, and for most people, that is the norm. Very few people get a sensational, immediate success in anything they do, right? It's just not going to happen. It takes time. It takes work. And so, don't grow weary in doing well, right?
Yeah.
Don't grow.
Yes.
And also never despise the small things. You can make it. It may not be on a global scale or national scale, but if you're making an impact in just one life, it's worth it. There's
True.
always you use what you have and the influence you have for good.
Yes.
And I think, like you were saying earlier about being passionate, part of it is starting off passionate and then staying passionate about it, because the second you hit the first bump in the road, so a lot of people will lose their passion, and then they don't want to do it anymore, and it's too hard, and it's not fun. But staying passionate is the most important part to achieving the goal. How are you going to achieve the goal if you don't keep trying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. And also, I'm going to, this might be a little more depressing angle on this, but there's that saying, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I'm just going to warn you guys that is not true.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, if you are doing it, day in and day out, whether it's making a living or it's something like a podcast, right?
Yeah.
At some point, it will become work. And there's going to be tedious aspects to it.
Yes.
There's going to be things you don't enjoy about that process. But that's what separates leaders from not leaders. It's the people who persevere and who say, you know what, even though this has become work, it may not be the funnest thing in the world, I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to do it because this is what I've been called to. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I need to do. And I think that's what really separates those who are going to be successful from those who are not. Are the ones who have the perseverance.
It's grit.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's something that
definitely.
my generation lacks a lot, is grit.
Well, and we always say to young people and students that, it might not be the funnest thing to do right now. while you could be off, playing social or scrolling through social media and playing video games and all of that stuff. There's a lot of other distractions and a lot of other fun things that you can do.
No cap at that point, right?
No cap. Yeah. There you go. And so there's a lot of other, there's a lot of other fun things that you could be doing. And so some students might ask, like, well, why should I get involved in politics? Because that sounds like a lot of hard work. But what we want to tell students is that, yes, it does require some hard work to make a difference, but ultimately that's what's going to lead to a happier and more meaningful life when you're impacting other people's lives for the better. And everybody wants to be a happier person, but it does take some work to get there because, human beings want to know that our lives have meaning and that we're bringing value to other people's lives.
Yeah.
And so if you get involved right now and if you start making a difference and impacting the lives of those around you, that's what's going to lead to a more meaningful and a more purposeful life.
100%. You will be happier than if you just think about
exactly.
yourself. If you think about others in the long run, you will be far more joyful.
Yes.
And you'll have a far happier life than if you only think about yourself.
I think that part of the issue is that a lot of times we seek happiness, but we don't seek fulfillment. And so I think if you're constantly seeking happiness, every time you buy something or every time you eat a good meal, like that happiness is going to fade. But fulfillment, that is a more long-term form of happiness. So if you're putting in the hard work and you're not thinking like, oh, I'm so unhappy right now because I'm doing this hard work, but instead you're like, I'm going to be so fulfilled in a week when this comes through, then you're going to feel good about it the whole time. You're going to feel like important, like you're doing something, and it's not going to feel tedious.
I'm going to be a little bit depressing again. I'm going to go
Oh,
back.
man.
I'm going to go back to an old C.S. Lewis quote. And he said, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I don't have it memorized exactly, but basically, if you look at life as somewhere where you're trying to have fun and just enjoy yourself, you're going to be miserable for your whole life. But if you look at life as a battleground where you are put here on earth temporarily to serve the master, and you're in a battle, you're going to find contentment all the way through life. And it's really true when we think about who we are as Christians, because I'm unapologetically a man of faith. I believe in Jesus Christ and the Word of God. And when you look at life through that perspective, we're not here to enjoy ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like we're here to make an impact for the kingdom. And that's, I think, if that's our goal, if that's our priority, you will find so much contentment in life just because you have the master of the universe walking by your side and sharing life with you. And that's what we were created to do. That's what God wants from us. That's where our hearts will find the most contentment.
It's very profound because that Jesus, came down to earth and then washed other people's feet. Like he ascended down.
Yes.
I was literally talking to somebody yesterday about apologetics, and they said one of the ways you can know that Christianity is the religion of truth is because it does not appeal to carnal desires. Literally, Jesus' message was, follow me. You're going to be persecuted. You're probably going to get killed. There's going to be all these trials, but it's the truth.
Yeah, you can't bury your dad.
Yeah, that's not a message that appeals to human nature. It's a message of divinity.
Yes.
And I think that's so important to remember. Look, this life is a mission. It's can you impact the world for Christ?
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you brought up apologetics because that's actually one of the things that we were talking about with our group at our last meeting, and we want to focus on apologetics moving forward.
Okay, I want to come back on the podcast at some point and talk about apologetics.
We could do a whole episode about apologetics. That would be
fun.
Oh yes,
you should come and talk to our group about it. Yes, I think it's really important, and C.S. Lewis is great for that. Like if you wanna learn some good defenses of the Christian faith, read C.S. Lewis because he was awesome. I highly recommend all of his books.
And since we're talking about books, and I was talking about grit earlier, if you happen to be Gen Z or if you believe you're lacking in grit, I started reading this book with my family. I haven't finished it yet, but it's really good. It's Grit by Angela Duckworth. It's a really good book. I recommend it to everybody. My sister recommended it to her track coach, and her track coach talked about it on the speakerphone in the morning at school and announced it to everybody. It's a great book.
Okay, that's actually really cool because I read that book a few months ago.
Isn't it great?
Yes, it was really good.
It's life-changing. It's awesome.
There you go. That's So definitely,
I feel like the odd man out. I need to read this.
Yes, you got to read it now. Yeah.
It includes a lot of stories too, so it's a really fun read. It doesn't feel like a lecture in a book. It's like listening
Yeah,
to
it's good.
story
And there's a
time
lot of
with
good
them.
practical suggestions in there,
Yeah,
too.
it's really great.
Well, we could talk about like philosophy and C.S. Lewis, I think, this whole episode. We could just go on about all of these different topics, which are really important. But I also think that we should talk a little bit about government. We brought this up earlier. And so I think that we should really talk about what's the basis for government, what was the founding fathers' vision for government, and also what role do biblical values play in society and in government.
Well, look, I think this is one of the most pertinent questions to our society today because,
Yes.
For the first 150 years of our country's history, no one questioned whether biblical values or faith should play a role in government. This is a very modern question of I would say removing God from our government institutions, and so I think it's leaving our country at a crisis because we look the secular humanism, whether they want to admit it or not, they're tied in with socialism, right? Like it's the idea that man can be the arbitrator of what's right and wrong. Man can control governments. Man can decide what lawful authority is, what rights are, and it's the idea of democracy. And I never waste an opportunity to explain, as much as you'll hear even Republican elected officials, media talking heads, calling America a democracy. We are not a democracy, and we were never designed to be a democracy. Democracy is 50% plus one deciding what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And it's a horrible form of government.
A good analogy for that is democracy. Pure democracy is like two wolves and a lamb voting on what to have for dinner,
right?
Yeah.
And I think this is so important to understand about talking about what our founding fathers envisioned for our country, like why America is so special. It's because we're not a democracy; we're a constitutional republic. And what that means is we have a constitution. We recognize and we recognize in our founding document, in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Well, if you have divine rights that come from your Creator, then no government and no man has a lawful authority to take those away from you.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It can be 99.9999999 into infinity percent, but if even one person says, no, I have these God-given rights, they have the authority to have those rights defended.
And the people that are trying to change that are the people that just want control.
Yes, and ironically, with that control, with centralized government, with socialism, it always ends badly because human nature cannot handle divine power. It can't. It will not happen. It will always create tyrants.
Yes, because then government takes the place of God. If you remove God from your society, then government takes the place of God.
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
That's right. And so you have to keep. Look, they ignore the fact that we, by nature, as people, have a spiritual component. And if you ignore that, you leave a hole. And I talk about this all the time right now. If you leave that hole, and we see this, unfortunately, tremendously with our young people today, because we have, to a large extent, taken God out of society. We've taken God out of our schools. We've taken God out of so many things. And we talk about separation of church and state, which, by the way, does not mean separation of church from state. But I digress.
Yes.
But when you take God out of a society, you leave a hole. And that hole will be filled by something. And I think what we see it filled with socialism, secular humanism.
Yes, G.K. Chesterton had a really
scary
good quote. You might know it, but it was, when people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing, they'll believe in anything.
Correct.
And that's so true. And I think we're especially seeing that right now because now all of these people in our society, now that we've largely gotten rid of God, removed God from our education and from our government, now people are putting their faith in these other things, whether it's secular humanism or whether it's scientism or socialism, like you were saying, all these isms. Something has to fill that void.
And there's still also something that's, I think, even more heartbreaking, which is human nature. A lot of people still realize that that's not the answer, right? And so it leaves a lot of people with that hole filled with hopelessness. And I think that's why we see so much drug addiction. We see so much, abuse of alcohol and suicides with our young people, because when you take hope out of the human heart, you can fill it with socialism, but that doesn't really make you content because it's counterfeit. It's a counterfeit of what really should be there. And I think that's why we're seeing the hopelessness with our youth today. And I think it's so important that we recognize that and that we return meaning to life. Because there cannot be authority without God. Like, God is the lawful arbitrator of all authority. And I think that's so important to remember.
The socialist uprising in America is terrifying right now. Oh my goodness. I hear people complaining about capitalism all the time. And I don't know, it annoys me a little bit. I think that they're confusing capitalism with consumerism a little bit too much. And I can see why consumerism might become, in some ways, kind of diverge into something not healthy anymore. But they throw away capitalism as a whole and then trade it for socialism.
And I think they forget capitalism is freedom, like free markets. Like if you allow government to control that sector, you give away freedom for individuals and for businesses, and that never. And socialism never ends well. Anything government takes control of almost always fails. It's just by nature.
Yes, that's why it's important to study history, because if you study history, you'll see very quickly that socialism has been tried before and it's never gone well.
Oh yes, it baffles me that socialism is coming back, and communism a little bit too. It baffles me so much, because as much as they talk about Hitler and people on the right being Hitler, and I don't know, have you heard people on the left accuse people on the right of being Hitler all the time?
All the time.
But then they go around trying to spread socialism and communism. I'm just like, oh my goodness.
No, they miss the picture. They
How
don't
in the world?
understand history and what the real players that are there, right?
Do you hear what you are saying right now? It baffles me so much.
Yes. I think, okay, so I also wanted to ask you about Christian nationalism, because that's another big issue right now that I think is on a lot of people's minds, because there's a lot of people on the left who will criticize conservatives and Christians who are involved in politics or involved in government. Their argument is that, well, you're trying to impose your Christian beliefs on everybody else. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I mean, first, the immediate assumption is a negative, right? And I think we need to push back on that. So if they're calling us Christian nationalists, does that mean they're anti-God globalist?
Right. Aren't they just imposing their anti-Christian views on everybody else?
Anti-Christian globalist views on us.
Yeah.
And because when you think about the reverse of those titles, and so, look, this is probably going to be controversial. I think it is sad and depressing that people are using attacks of basically being a Christian, like Christianity, they're attacking us for being Christians.
Yes.
No, Christianity is the values of Christianity have done so much for Western civilization, for our country, and I proudly say yes. If my charge is that I'm a Christian, I'm guilty of it and proud of it. Mm-hmm. It means I love my brother. It means I've been ordered to love my enemy. It means I've been ordered to treat people with respect, with kindness, even if I disagree with them. It means all these things that really, if we're honest about it, society would be a whole lot better if we had a little more of it. I don't know which one of the 10 Commandments they disagree with, but I kind of don't like murder and I kind of don't like stealing.
Yeah.
We could, the secular world could learn a lot from the values of Christianity. So
Yes.
I'll push back on there right away. The second thing is, look, we have gotten to a point where most of the media are controlled by globalists. I was making a joke about, are they globalists anti-God? They really are. Yes, I do not think that's an unfair fair statement. But if you look at that, why should we rush towards a global system? Why should we embrace helping people in other countries before helping Americans?
Right.
Once again, I'm unapologetically a patriot. I love America. This is I believe the greatest nation in modern history. Right? We believe in freedom. We believe in liberty. We believe in allowing people to have constitutional rights. We should be proud of America, and we should embrace being nationalist. I am a nationalist because I love America. I love the people of America. Mm-hmm. And so I hate to say when somebody calls me a Christian nationalist, I kind of want to say, okay, yes.
Yes,
what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And I hate that they put the negative spin on it because, and I think that's, and it's gotten to be a title where people are afraid of it. Like, oh, no, we're not. And I was like, well, maybe we should push back and say, what's wrong with that? Mm-hmm. And what's wrong with the values of standing for what we believe in with our faith and standing for America and putting America first again? Mm-hmm. No offense. I think we should be putting the American people first.
Yeah.
I think the American government should be serving the American people, not the UN. not the World Health Organization, not
Yes.
whatever other country out there you want to pick. Let's put America first.
Yes. And if you go back to, what the founders said and what they believed, you'll find that those biblical values are really what built our nation. And they were the basis of their worldview. And John Adams had a quote where he said that our constitutional republic was made only for a moral and religious people. And so those biblical values were very central and very very core to what they believed and their vision for America.
Yeah, look, I'm going to tell a quick story. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I was actually I was down at the Auburn University and we set up a tent. We call it Challenge the Chairman, where I kind of a Charlie Kirk model, where I want students to be able to come up and like ask questions, challenge me on maybe what I believe where our beliefs are different, right? And I had a guy come up and he was talking, and I brought up, this is the best way because something about faith. He was like, no, you can't talk about faith. Like, that has to be separate from government. I was like, no, it can't. And he was like, what do you mean it can't? I was like, you cannot have lawful authority without recognition of God's authority. You can't divorce. You can't say that the state is somehow has some kind of divine authority that's outside of God. Like all lawful authority has to be under the umbrella of the authority of God. And without that, you become a nation that will not have a foundation. And without a foundation, you will fall. It's only a matter of time. It will fall every time.
Yes.
And he argued with that. And so I just looked straight at him and I was like, do you believe you have human rights? Like just basic human rights? And he was like, yes. And I was like, okay, where did those human rights come from? And he was like, society. And I said, so society in 1940 Germany said that it was okay to murder Jews. Do you agree with that? And at that point, he kind of knew he was had, right? And he was like, no, I don't. I was like, and we argued a little bit more. And I finally said, look, I want to tell you where your rights come from. Your rights come from your creator. And because of that, no government, not Nazi Germany, not any, have the authority to take them away from you. And when they start infringing on those God-given rights, they become tyrants.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was so proud. Like, I don't know that I fully convinced him, but he conceded. He said, "You are right. I agree.
No,
My rights don't come from government or society. They come from God."
Yes.
And I was like, and that's what we have to have a conversation like, because we have to recognize, without God as the foundation of our legal system, and make no mistake, Americans' legal system was founded on God's rules. Our legal system goes back to Blackstone's English commentary or English common law, which goes back to natural law, which was based roughly on God's law. There's a reason we all know it's wrong to steal, because God told us it was wrong to steal. There's a reason we all know murder's wrong. It's because God told us murder was wrong. Like our justice system, it's why you have to be charged with a crime. There has to be witnesses. That all goes back to the principles that God set up in his law. And I think it's so important that we recognize that without those fundamental principles, we become a lawless society.
Yes.
And without that foundation, any country is doomed for failure.
And I think a lot of the lawlessness also comes from the people not researching enough, not knowing things. When we were talking about socialism earlier, anybody who has read a history book will completely disagree with socialism and everything that it stands for. And I think that a lot of times, especially with the left, we see buzzwords kind of take hold, and so people pass these buzzwords around and they make them their entire opinion without really researching what is behind this buzzword. So they say nationalism, or as another one of those buzzwords. But they connect. The reason why they think nationalism is so bad is because they are connecting it to, again, Nazi Germany and Hitler being a nationalist. But I would say he was more just a big racist than a nationalist.
Well, it's connected to it, right?
Yeah. There's good nationalism and there's bad nationalism, and I would say that Hitler is the prime example of the bad nationalism. This is where they stem their definition of nationalism from, and that's why they think it's so bad. But really, Hitler was more of just a racist than a nationalist. So
and who's creating those paradigms, right?
Exactly.
It's socialists, the people who believe in socialism, that man can do it, or who are creating those.
But the biggest difference goes all the way back to what you said at the beginning, which is that the conservative view of government is that government should be limited.
Correct.
And Nazi Germany was the opposite of that.
Did not.
Yes.
Look, people also forget this, and this blows my mind every time I hear it. Where they say, the Republican Party are fascist, like Nazi Germany. It's like, you do realize that in German, like, this Nazi is a synonym, and it includes, it's was a socialist party in Germany.
The National Socialist
Yes,
Workers
it was
Party.
not the conservative. It was socialist. Like they were the socialist
They
party.
actually called themselves that.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Let's be very plain.
Yeah.
Nazis were socialist, self-proclaimed in the name
You
of
go
their
back
party.
to the actual name.
Yes.
Yes. I think, like I said
It's
earlier,
all
we
right
could
there.
we could talk about this stuff all day, and we should really have you on the podcast again because there's a lot more we could talk about. But we gotta wrap it up pretty soon here. But before we do, I wanted to close it out with some fun questions, just so people can get to know you a little bit better. Because I know that you actually hold a Guinness World Record, and so I bet a lot of people would be really interested.
Although I have lost it. So
So you held
is
one.
a proper word. Yeah.
Okay.
He only beat it by a little bit too. So I'm like, maybe one day I'll go back and get it back.
So tell us what it was
it's
for.
not a very, I'm here in a suit and tie. It's not a very chairmanly record. It was actually the furthest distance walking on Legos barefoot. And so and you may already know some about this. I don't know if she does.
Yeah, Jill, have you heard about it? Did you know that he held a Guinness World Record for longest distance walked barefoot on Legos?
No?
Yeah.
Is this on video?
Well, I mean, it is.
Is it on
But you have
YouTube?
to have evidence to prior to Guinness. It's quite a process. Like Guinness is very.
Can I see this
very
video,
big.
please?
Well, I want you to guess. Like I always like to make people guess. Like how far do you think I walked? Like.
I don't want to guess too much. Maybe like, I don't know, like less than a mile.
Less than a mile.
Was it?
It was 5.2 miles.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
So-
yeah.
I just didn't think anybody would make it more than a mile on
Well,
Legos.
Well, it's hard to get a Guinness. It should be hard, right? To get a world
Yes.
record. Like it's supposed to be hard. No, I actually enjoyed it. I remember. I forget. I think the first time I saw it was actually Dude Perfect.
I love Dude Perfect.
Yes.
Oh, we have Dude Perfect fans here. So I was watching on there, and they broke it, and I was like, oh, if they can do it, I've always wanted a world record. It's like, but I'm not. I don't want to say I'm not talented, but like.
Hey, we should have a competition
that
with the Student
talented.
Eagles to see who can break that record. Who can walk the longest on barefoot on Legos.
If you do it, I will come back. I
there
will
you go.
defend my
Oh my
title.
gosh.
We'll
the
get-
5K
yeah.
for life, only the whole thing is on Legos this year.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, next year. We already did
The
ours
run
for
for
this
life.
year.
Yeah.
But no,
That's- yeah.
I always want a record. But it's actually a subculture. Like
Yeah.
like there's been jockeyed for position. It's
going to be an Olympic sport pretty soon.
Yeah, probably not, but
maybe. Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, if it is, that's another thing I always wanted was a Olympic gold medal, and I'm getting older, so I should. I'm running out
Do
of
you get a
time.
Yeah,
Guinness
there you
gold
go.
medal, or is it like a plaque?
You get a plaque.
You get- yeah, a little something to show for
what
it.
I love about it though is you get your plaque says in the envelope when it comes because it comes from England. They're actually based in England, and you get it and it says on the outside, "You are officially amazing." And
Aw.
Wow.
I was like, I already knew that. Like,
Just tell me what I already know.
yeah.
That's good. Okay. So one last question now to close it out. I like asking people this. If you could go back to one time period of history, it could be American history or world history. If you could go back to one time period of history, where would you go?
I will not allow you to forcing me into the box of only choosing one. So I'm going to take.
You just not conform.
I'm going to take modern history and then ancient history.
Okay.
So modern history, 1776, right? Like I want to
That's what he
be.
said.
I
That was
want to
my
be
answer
the
too,
guy
yeah.
there, like signing the declaration. I
Yeah.
feel like if I was alive in that time frame, I would have been in that room.
I just
Like,
want to hear the debates that they had. in
No,
the
forget
room.
that. I want to sign the document.
You want to
Like,
actually be signing it?
yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want my
Okay.
name.
Your
Yeah.
signature is bigger than the
It
John
would
Hancock.
not be John Hancock. It would be John Wahl right now. Like sign to John Wahl because I would have been like, oh, John Hancock's is big. Well, watch this.
Well,
You
yeah.
scratch his out and you put yours over it.
Yeah, no. So I think modern times 100% to be part of that process of founding our country and really setting up a government that has never been seen on earth. You're right, like a government that was centered around liberty and freedom and the individual. Like that would be my dream. But at the same time, I cannot ignore to be alive in the time of Christ. I like that has to be number one. So I had to divide it into more recent history and then
Yes.
So, seems that we are out of time for the day. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to close this out with a Bible verse before we shut this off. But whoever practices the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen clearly that what he has done has been accomplished in God. John 3:21. I think that
Yes.
sums up everything we talked about pretty good. Yes.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, everybody. John Wahl, chairman of the Alabama Republican Party, thank you for joining
Thank
us.
you so much.
It has
Yes.
been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed this. And I
Yes.
will be back. I
Yes.
have to come back and do apologetic, one on
Yes.
apologetics.
Yes, we will do that.
So much fun.
Yeah, so stay tuned for future episodes. And thank you so much for watching this one, and we'll see you again next time.